Compressed AI Blocks writes in and says, how important do you think RDNA 4 could be to the market or economy? A lot of people are feeling the cost of living squeeze, and I was looking at a GPU upgrade to Blackwell, and it seems like it's not for the average consumer.
Sadly, the importance of RDNA 4 is how well it reads across to CDNA 4, assuming that's what it's called. I was truly shocked that AMD, maybe they will still, didn't look at the second half of this year and go, Nvidia has run into many problems with Blackwell, and we're not expecting 50 series desktop this year. Now,
I am.
Oh, you are? Okay.
That's what I've always been saying is, are you going to buy it? No, but they'll have a 5090, I think, this year.
But the thing being is, AMD, I would have thought, could at least do one of these promotional things like Sapphire tends to do with a box that's around a particular game. You know, it's more than just giving you a voucher for the game. Do a push, get some stuff out. You know, essentially do something that's going to promote. But a new game is the classic kind of tie-up, and they haven't. And I think it's going to be much the same as with RDNA 4. I hope it's good. I have every expectation it'll be a continuation of good. But I think the focus is on AI and servers. We just get the spin-offs from that.
So I wonder if you saw my 8800 XT leak like a week ago or something, but it spawned from one of my best sources telling me that it's launching in like 2 months. Like that actually it's finalizing now. And I was like, and this is why I called the person. I'm like, really? That soon?
Oh, okay. No, I missed that. That's the beginning of November.
They said it could even be October, so end of October. So I'm like, hey, maybe I'll look stupid, everyone listening. I don't know. I wouldn't have run that story unless I called people up. But what I was told is, yeah, that was intentional. AMD told AIBs, they gave them everything they needed to launch by Q4, but then they told AIBs it's Q1 so that NVIDIA wouldn't feel like they need to launch soon. So that's why we'll see if that happens. I think. And remember, I told you I also heard that AMD hired some people to help them get their crap together in marketing and project management. So I hope this happens. I guess I won't believe it. It's AMD. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. But that there might actually be finally some smart moves here. And they aren't always stupid. They were really smart with RDNA too, you know.
Yeah. Well, no, in that case, then perhaps this is the Blackwell has given them the opening, and in order to respond quickly, if they can actually bring out a new actual new thing and not just like a pretty box, then great. However, I'm quite sure they'll price the thing, at Nvidia levels and want as much margin as possible. Because apart from anything else, I mean, how many wafers can they have run? Bearing in mind that Turin hasn't yet come out and all the rest of it, so they must be doing wafers for that. How many wafers can they run for GPUs with the lead time they've got? They have to take a bet.
What I would point to is I was told that RDNA 3 production ended a few months ago. And I'm like, why would you do that unless you know you're going to replace this soon? And if you go to Newegg right now, and this is worth pointing out because half a year ago, the 7900 XTX in America was going towards $800. Now it's at $1,000. Why would that? Because they don't have a lot of them in stock anymore. So there's this public evidence too that AMD is preparing for something. Granted, I bet they're also stopping RDNA 3 production because frankly, GPUs just aren't selling well right now anyways.
Right. Well, then sadly, if it's a 5090 that lands at Christmas, that's going to be $1,500 or whatever, isn't it?
Could be 2,500.
Well, right, exactly. And if it's 5080, then maybe that's the 1,500. The point is, if AMD prices below 1,000, why price it at 900 or 800 if you can price it at 999? It's all this, it's the same market. That market segment goes from 0 to 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you leave money on the table? And then there's also going to be a question of how many wafers have they had to run? How many graphics cards are there? If it's 5,000 graphics cards rather than 50,000 graphics cards, they'll just want to sell them for all the money they can grab, won't they?
Well, but I believe the die size is going to be between 250 to 350 millimeters squared.
Yeah, but that's the cost though.
Yeah, but it does have to do with capacity. That would be the reason they'd want to switch to it as soon as possible. Is they can make 2 of these cards in the same capacity they can make like a 7900 XTX overall if you combine the nodes. It's like, well, then all the more reason to switch to this as soon as possible because you can make a ton of them and the same amount of wafers versus the previous generation. And no one's buying Zen 5, so you might as well sell this.
Because, of course, but they're having to commit allocation, aren't they? So maybe that's the reason Granite Ridge came out early. Of course. What fabrication process are these new graphics on?
4 nanometer.
Right. So then that's your explanation. We've got it.
Yeah, you're saying they ran through their production of Zen 5 4 nanometer
Zen
first.
5 desktop, so they can actually get on to do the graphics.
Maybe. That's actually an interesting idea.
Once they put them through the packaging plant, it's like, well, there's no point keeping them on the warehouse. Now, they could have kept them till they got the motherboards ready. That would be the smart move. Instead of which, presumably it's like, no, hang on, we're holding inventory here. Sell them. So then that's just the most stupid launch of all time. But that seems like a not stupid theory. They did Granite Ridge 4 nanometer so they could get onto the graphics 4 nanometer.
And then, they can still make the 3 nanometer Turin chips. And depending on what people want, they can make more of the 4 nanometer version or not, depending on what actually sells.
It sounds like they have responded to opportunity, but you have to do the wafer starts. You've booked wafer starts. You have to allocate them. And that must be a hell of a job. That seems plausible, actually.
The PS5 Pro launches, I believe, in November, also using basically RDNA 4 on 4 nanometer. So that will be another concern. That was a problem for RDNA 2, is Nvidia was able to walk away with market share, not because Ampere was really better than RDNA 2, but because they just had unlimited production practically at Samsung, whereas AMD had Sony knocking on their door saying, yes, we would like more PS5 capacity, please.
However, Xbox capacity's just dropped, hasn't it?
It's gone. I don't know. Yeah.
So on the gaming side of things, it means that Sony can have basically the lot.
Yeah, there's no Xbox competing for 4 nanometer like they were for 7 in the past.
Right. Whereas it originally, both Xbox and PlayStation were absolutely, you couldn't buy either. So now, in a sense, and that hit AMD in their last financials, didn't it? They got clobbered on the gaming side, and that's purely Xbox. So it'll be a nice thing to have back. They'll want it back. It'll be a good thing all round. We don't think the margins are very high on the gaming side of things because the console makers don't pay that much, I wouldn't have thought. It's not Epic, it's not MI300 or MI325 or MI350. Those are really important. So I think this is a bit like the spinning the plates on the sticks. The console stuff matters because it keeps everything going. But what AMD doesn't need is just a product that keeps wafers going through TSMC. They don't have that problem.
The biggest mistake they could make is forgetting what they're selling. What we have is a 16 gigabyte card that probably costs less to make, actually, or certainly not much more than the 7800 XT. And it doesn't even use GDDR6X. I mean, it's 20 gigabit per second GDDR6 that tells you this was built for volume. Otherwise, why wouldn't they use faster memory?
My feeling is that RDNA 4 graphics cards will be perfectly decent. The drivers seem to continue to be okay. Pleasingly so.
I've been using an AMD graphics card the past month, and it's super smooth right now to me.
Right. Their software continues to evolve. They don't kind of make. I mean, they obviously often shout about the leaps they make, but they genuinely seem to be. As I mentioned, I've recently gone back to Zen Plus, Zen 2. Apart from the fact they have a different version of Ryzen Master for Zen and Zen 2. Surprisingly, it's a different piece of software and it looks horrible, old and clunky. There's clearly some different functionality going on, but chipset driver installation and the behavior of the thing and the BIOS and the so on and so on and so on, it's all so much better than I remember. It's just continual evolution, which it's clearly across the piece because they must have some sort of unified software model going on. The graphics drivers from AMD have improved significantly and incrementally over time. They are perfectly pleasant. But sadly, I think RDNA 4 will come out fine. If it means they can get a Q4 and actually make some money and get a product out there, I'm happy. I suspect it won't be cheap. Nothing like as cheap as we want. But they'll sell. I'm confident they'll sell.
This piece of content is brought to you by Odoo. Odoo is a one-stop shop for managing basically all of the annoying parts of your business. They have apps for accounting, sales, website building, and much more. Like, for example, if I wanted to make a new blog for Moore's Law is Dead, it is very easy to do with Odoo. I have to admit that I had to try this out to make the ad, and I was very surprised how easy it was to get a blog up and running quickly. You just start with a few prompts, choose a style, confirm what you'll use the site for, and then boom, it just throws several options together in front of you and you go, yeah, I like that one, and then you are off. Just like that, I had a blog where I could talk about decisions being made by Pat at Intel. And you know what? That was free. That's right. Your first app is free for life with unlimited hosting for that website, free support, and the domain you choose is also free for a year. And with that same email address, you can create multiple databases, meaning multiple individual websites that don't need to be connected to each other as well. So if you're interested in checking out Odoo, follow the directions and the links below to get the best deal on it. And remember, that first app you use is free, and clicking on that link below, just doing even that, helps the channel a ton. So support Moore's Law is Dead by checking out Odoo today.